You know, some people really know the scriptures well. They can quote the quotes so well. Some people don't know the scriptures at all. And then there's a group of people that actually live the scriptures.
So welcome to the Digital Jesus podcasts. I'm delighted on behalf of the Divine Mercy Team North Belfast to be joined by Carol Daly today. Carol is joining us all the way from California in the United States. And Carol, simply we're going to have a wee chat, Carol Moore's going to tell you all at home about the wonderful project. So without further ado, I'm going to hand on over now to Carol, who's going to tell us about the Foothill's Kitchen project.
Thank you, Father Frank. I really appreciate the invitation to come and share our work in Monrovia, California. We're in Southern California. You know, years ago, I was always interested in reaching out to help the homeless. In California, we have the most ideal weather. Most of the weather is generally about between 70 degrees to maybe 100 degrees. And so as a result of that, we have many people that come and live in California because back east, where it's cold, or in the middle of the United States, it's cold. California is a nice place to be able to sleep outside if you have to sleep outside. And so in the initial time in our Catholic Church, in our local Catholic Church, we weren't really doing anything for the homeless. In the city of Los Angeles, we have different counties. I'm in Los Angeles County, and we actually have 160,000 people that sleep outside every single day. And in wanting to do something, I looked around to different parishes, and I met a man named John Olson. And John Olson, when he started this program, it was called Brothers Helpers. He came from a very affluent parish, and he said, I want to do something. He was 70 at the time. And what he did was he went to his own church, and he said, Father, why don't we do something for the homeless? And because they had wealth in their parish, the church allowed him to, at that church, they would come together on Monday, and everybody was invited to come, and they would prepare a meal for 450 people. And so there would be some people that would be cutting up the vegetables or cutting up the different things that they were going to serve. And then eventually, when all of the food was prepared, then at 5 o'clock, they'd probably get together about 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in doing the preparation. And about 5 o'clock, they'd all sit down at a table, and there would be like children and there would be adults together. And I would say at the time, we were probably dealing with about 30 people that would come together, and they'd go around the table, and then they would say, these are our prayer intentions. And they would have, I don't remember any food being shared at that time, but they would have like drinks, coffee, and even wine. And even the little children would say, this is what I'm praying for. These are my intentions. When they were done with that, they would then get into this long line, and it was an assembly line, where they would take these plastic containers or styrofoam containers, and they would fill them with the salad and the I forget what the meal that they were serving. It was spaghetti. They'd have maybe a spaghetti, a salad, a bread, a fruit, and they would prepare 450 of these meals. John Olson then had prepared with the city in downtown LA. It's called La Placita, where many, many people are living on the street, on the sidewalks, in front of businesses, because if you're homeless, you really have no place to go. You can either live in your car or you can live on the street. And so there's tents all along certain areas in Los Angeles where people come, because they have no place to go. So he coordinated with the Catholic Church down there so that after all those meals had been prepared, at 6 o'clock in the evening, he would drive down to La Placida, and he would take out this big container of these styrofoam meals, set them on a table. The Catholic Church downtown had tables set up. Here's all the drinks. Here's coffee. Here's hot chocolate. And then there would be a line of many, many people. Here's the men. Here's the women. Here's the disabled. When the man that drove it down there would arrive, they would say a blessing. Everybody would say a blessing. And then the people would come forward. First, the disabled would come, and then the women would come, and then the men would come. And you could come through the line as often as you liked until the food ran out. And so John did not just stop with his own parish. He went to St. Bede's, which was his parish, and he went to St. James. And on Tuesday, he coordinated it that they were preparing a meal. And then on Wednesday and on Thursday and on Friday, there was an Episcopal church that was involved. But every single day of the week was prepared. The weekend, I think, was picked up by the actual parishioners at the Catholic Church downtown. So that was going on for many years. And then John met a man at our parish, and they came forward to me and they said, "Oh, Carol, come on, let's do something out in Monrovia. Why don't we do something similar?" So wanting to do something, because we as volunteers were actually going over there for a couple months, just seeing how it worked and trying to help out. And then in seeing the dynamics of that, and I went with parishioners from our church that were interested, probably about a dozen parishioners that were going over. And so anyway, I was approached and, okay, well, why don't we do something? I called all of the churches that are located in Monrovia, because you can do that with the computer, where are all the churches? And in calling all of the different churches, most of the churches didn't call back because they don't have secretaries. They're small churches. And so, but one of the churches was the Methodist Church, the United Methodist Church. And they said, yes, we're serving a meal and a movie on the last Friday of the month. And so I met another lady. We have 3 co-founders of our kitchen. One of them is my cousin, and one of them is a friend, and she had been doing a ministry for the poor before. And so we asked the Methodist Church, would it be all right if you're serving on the last Saturday of the month, could we come in and serve on the 3rd Saturday of the month? Yes, we could. We were so happy about that. And so the very following month, there were actually 5 Saturdays in the month, and people showed up on the 4th Saturday in the month, and they said, "Where are you?" And so with that, we knew we had to do something. I attend daily Mass, and you know how the Lord always provides. It was great. I was coming out of Mass one morning, and I said, "You know what? We've got this problem. We're trying to serve a meal, but we need a cook, And so when I came out, this Filipino lady said, "I'd like to be involved. I've been serving in another city about 20 minutes away from us in Glendale." And she said, "I'd love to get involved in this. And I used to have a catering company in the Philippines." And we said, "Wow, wonderful." And so she came together, and she and her husband were cooks. And so it ended up that every single Saturday of the month, we have been providing a meal for the past 8 years. And we're called Foothill's Kitchen, and anybody in need can come to our kitchen and have a meal. And about a year after we were doing this, we came, and when you come to our kitchen, first of all, you get a home-cooked meal. You come into a beautiful dining room, and then there's a big, giant industrial kitchen. And it was open to anybody that wanted to volunteer because so many people wanted to volunteer. And we had like a Maryknoll sister that would come, and she would bring fresh flowers from where they lived and put them on the tables. And we had tablecloths because a lot of times when people are served and you're living in the street is kind of a sterile setting, where you come in as like a cafeteria type. We just wanted to serve our guests. And so they would sign in, and then we would bring them a meal, and we'd have a nice dessert. And then, as well as that, people would donate things, clothing to us, and different needs. And initially, we used to put out on the tables, what do you need? Do you need shoes? Do you need a blanket? Do you need a sleeping bag? Do you need a tent? And now what happens is we're so familiar with our guests that come. We see when we have new guests, we just, go and ask them individually. They come in, they sign in to have a meal. We serve about 45 to maybe 55 people every Saturday. And it becomes like a home where people feel welcome and they feel like they're relaxed. We want people to be able to come in and not feel rushed. And so if they have when people donate to us, we have like a little closet, and it's got things that are valuable, like coats and blankets and tents and various things like that. People will travel, and then they'll donate toiletries to us. And then sometimes we'll just have freebies. Sometimes we've had huge donations of T-shirts or various things. So we'll have a stage there where all of that stuff that is not valuable, like the coats and the tents and such, will be put out. And when you come into the kitchen, you can immediately go over and help yourself to clothing that's hanging on a rack. You can get whatever you want. And also, we've made connections through the years with food banks where they have excess food. And then we'll have, I don't know if you have Trader Joe's here, Trader Joe's and Bond's Shopping Market, vegetables and produce and meats sometimes that will put, and people can help themselves. And then even with the leftovers of that, we are connected with other groups that are helping as well with helping those in need. And so we'll call up at the end of the day and maybe say, hey, we've got, a box of carrots or a box of lettuce, or, we get oodles of bread. Can you use it? And yes, they can use it. And so that's our kitchen. And people would come in. Generally, we open the doors at 12, and then at 1 o'clock we'll say our announcements, and we'll have a blessing, and then people will be able to be served and have as much food as we've got. And then some people, because they're living outside, and we'll give them, meals that they can actually take with them back to their camps. Or when you're homeless, you can't just leave your goods alone. So a lot of times people, if they're living like in the riverbed, which I'll go into in a minute, if you're living in the riverbed, you don't dare leave your things alone because it's so sad. But people that are living in the street will often steal from people in the street. So if you leave your things unguarded, so somebody will come to the kitchen, get a meal, and then they'll be able to take a meal back. About a year after we were serving at the kitchen, we became aware of the fact that there was a riverbed that is nearby us, and there are thousands of people that live in the riverbed. And all of the river going from the mountains where we are down to the ocean, which is an hour away, there's thousands of people. But in the area where we are, they're called Camp 1, Camp 2, Camp 3. These are the different camps. And there's people that have been living there for like 20 years sometimes. But if you become newly homeless, you really kind of have a choice. Are you going to, because think about this. If you become homeless and you lose your job or you lose your home, there's such a horrible shame to that. So you're not telling your neighbor, wow, we're losing our home, but all of a sudden you're on the street. So what do? Well, first of all, you probably put your things into a car. Let's assume that you've got a car. And you take your most valuable things. Well, a lot of people sometimes will put their things into a storage unit, thinking, okay, we'll get our feet back on the ground at some point. And so then you've got your income coming in. In California, it's very, very expensive to live. Our property there is very, very valuable. If you want to rent a place, if you want to share an apartment, if you want to share a room, or let's say you're in a house and you're going to share a room in the house, that is going to cost you maybe $700 to $900 a day. So I guess in euros, I'm not very good with this, but I would imagine that's probably about 1,300 euros to share a room. And to be able to rent a place, if you were going to, let's say you want to get a place, you've got a family, and so a family is probably, let's just say there's a family that's got a man and a woman and maybe a child, or let's say 2 children. That's going to cost you $2,300 to maybe $3,300. So in euros, that's going to be, I'm just guessing, probably 3,000 euros and up for your family. And most of the people that we're dealing with are people that are on Social Security. And that's a program that we have in the United States where, because you've worked your whole life, then you are collecting an income. And many of the people that are collecting their income are probably making, let's say you've worked in a grocery store your whole life, or you've worked just in various categories. I'm not talking about nurses and such. I'm talking about maybe teachers. So your income is going to, well, yeah, barbers, and okay. So your income is going to be probably about $700 to maybe $1,200. $1,200 would have in the past been considered a very good wage. So there again, you're probably in euros, it's probably, I guess maybe about 1,000 euros. Yeah, maybe 1,000 euros. So your income is that. So when I was just telling you about what the rents are, you can obviously see that you're not going to be able to cut it. And a lot of times we run into people that have lived their whole lives, maybe in their husband and wife, and then all of a sudden the spouse dies. This is very common. Or perhaps you've been renting a place, and then all of a sudden your landlord dies. And when your landlord dies, maybe you've been having a rent that is affordable, and now the children are going to sell the property. And when they're going to sell the property, you're going to be out of a home. Or maybe they're going to come in and they're going to remodel your property. And as a result of that, they're going to boost up your rent, or else they're going to tell you, I'm sorry, you have to leave. Currently, I've got a lady that's 85 years old, and she says she's been given until the beginning of the year. She's got a son that is mentally disabled. And I said, what are you paying in rent right now? And she said she's paying $1,000 in rent. And I said, what is your income? And her income is $900. $100 is not going to be able to help her. So as I started to say, she's probably going to move into her car. That particular lady does not have a car. But a lot of people move into their car, and then they've got their possessions, what they have in their car with them, and they put some stuff in storage. Well, a lot of times then what happens is eventually some people really catch on that, okay, I can't afford the storage, but a lot of people cling on to that, hope that they're going to get their feet on. So maybe they'll be paying a storage of, maybe $300 a month. Some people, particularly young people, or people even with disability, there are many people with disabilities. In the past, Ronald Reagan, who was our president, did away with hospitals for the mentally ill. And as a result of that, we have many people that are mentally ill on the street. They have schizophrenia, and they have, well, schizophrenia is a big one. And so they're living on the street. If you have no income coming in, you have no job, then the government has, I think you call it, well, it's general relief. And I believe that's $230 a month. And see, that's not ever going to be able to pay for your shelter. But and also they have programs from the government where you can actually get food assistance, where you get like a little credit card, and then that's good for maybe a couple $100 worth of food that you're able to, get food on a regular basis. But people will depend upon food kitchens like ourselves. About a year after we were serving at our kitchen, we became very aware of the fact that people were living in the riverbed, and we wanted to reach out to them. So, just long story short, we found a location, and it was ideal because a lot of bike riders would come to this location. It was a parking lot. There was a restroom there, and there were some picnic tables there, and there was a huge encampment there, a homeless encampment. And initially, I walked down with other people from our kitchen, and we walked through the different camps, people living under the bushes and near the riverbed, and totally illegal. And what would happen would be the government would go in every so often, and then they would go in with knives and they would slash the tents and first of all, they give people warning, sometimes 48 hours, get your things out of here. Well, where are the people going to go? Because if you become homeless, as I started to say, you can live in your car, but then you can either decide, are you going to live in the city where you're going to constantly be getting hassled by the police and to move along, and where do you sleep there? Some people are sleeping on church porches. Some people are sleeping in bushes, but hidden. It's very difficult in the city because you're always going to be getting hassled. You're always going to be getting, bothered. I mean, when you're homeless, if you think about it, where can you have your personal space? Where can you just go where people aren't looking at you and thinking, homeless? People, they have their dignity, and first of all, they don't want to be referred to as homeless. It's like if I go up to somebody and say, oh, are you homeless? No. You say, how long are you living on the street? And yeah. Or where did you sleep last night? And then that's a gentle way of, giving them their dignity of not having to, identify themselves as homeless. When we're serving, we say anybody in need is able to come to us, and, we will try and help them. So anyway, at the riverbed, we started going there, and initially we were taking sandwiches over to them. Some of our volunteers would come and say, okay, we've got leftover food from our kitchen, let's take it over to the riverbed. We started developing relationships with the people where, okay, what are your needs out here? Well, one of the things was people would complain about all of the trash that was left, but yet one of the problems was that they didn't have regular trash pickup and they didn't have adequate trash pickup. So because you're a kitchen and then you're kind of getting established, we'd call the supervisor's office and say, hey, can we get another trash container bin out here? And where could the people take showers? There was no place to take a shower. If you're homeless, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you clean yourself? You have to rely on going to public grocery stores or libraries. And then now in our cities, they have signs, and even at the airport, I saw, you may not bathe in these sinks and stuff. It's illegal to. And so how does a person have that dignity? Because people are so ashamed, and so it must be so difficult to admit to yourself that I'm homeless. And the last thing on earth you want to do is, be identified as being homeless. So, people try, and for the most part, you try and keep your appearance up. I know of people that would, women that would wear their makeup and they would be like living in their cars, but they're homeless, and maybe they're nurses, or maybe they're teachers even, and you'd have no idea. And then they wouldn't have an address. So, where do you, if you're filling out, because a lot of people would say, well, why don't they just get a job? It's like, what do you put down for your address? And so there's certain agencies where if you get connected with them, then you're able to use their address. And those agencies also will help with housing. But the truth is that there's no housing because it's so unaffordable, and there's no shelters because the shelters are all filled. So if, in fact, I get phone calls all the time of, wow, I'm 80 years old and, I've just lost my home. Like that woman I told you about, she called and said, where am I going to go? I can tell her to call 211, which is a number, and it will give her different resources. And, but the truth is that, what happens is this. Let's say I'm homeless and let's say I've got a child and such. I've got different phone numbers that I can call because with the people in Los Angeles voted to tax themselves half a cent. And with this, they got millions of dollars. And with that money, they said, what are we going to do with that money? Well, it's too hard to build a place because we've got so many places, so many people. So what they do is they provide services. It's called Los Angeles Service Homeless Authority. And you can go there and then they will help you by getting you directed. So if I'm a mother and I'm now on the street, I'm in great need. What they'll do is an assessment on you and they'll say, okay, are you a veteran? You get a point. Are you an alcoholic? You get a point. Or even a drug addict, you get a point because you've got a problem where they will help you. They want to help you. Are you a mother with a child? You'll get a point. The most points you can get are 17, and they've got 1,000 people with the score of 17 that they're presently trying to get into these shelters that they do have. But in the meantime, there's services that are available, but they're so limited in many respects of, they don't give you what you truly need, which is a house to live in. They have a new program in our area. It's called Housing First, where in the past they used to think, okay, you're a drug addict or you're an alcoholic, get cleaned up and then we'll give you a place. But if you think about it, how many people have become drug addicts or have become alcoholics because of their situation in life? Whereas if you can, get your feet on the ground, then that can help you to being able to go out and, get a job. How many people do we have that are nurses or professional people that are actually living in their cars because they can't afford a place? And in California, like in my city, it's like we built 2,200 new places. It was 10 projects. And the city of Monrovia, they didn't really do any affordable housing with that. We have a thing where it's affordable housing. It's like when if this is a beautiful thing. In the city of Pasadena, which is near us, they have a law that if you're going to build something new, then you have to set a certain percentage aside for affordable housing. And affordable housing is 30% of what your income is. And so in their city, 20% of every project that's going to be built is going to have housing set aside for that. That's brilliant. It's like I don't understand why the state of California doesn't have that, because it would make every city responsible for having something that is available for housing. But okay, let me think. Where are we going? So anyway, at the riverbed, we were successful because now we're a group. Because we were an organized group, and we had a voice. I started making connections and going to meetings, and this was marvelously done through Zoom. The people would like to have a shower, so we started calling up and asking the supervisor's office, could we get a shower? Could we get a shower? And so once a week, we had a shower, a trailer came out that would allow people to have showers. It was wonderful. And that shower program, the trailers would go from different locations throughout the different cities, allowing people to, take a shower. That means so much to be able to be clean and to be able to have your dignity. It was such a blessing to have that. We've been operating for the past 8 years, and we have served thousands of meals, and we're very blessed. I think that one of the key things that made us successful, besides the grace of God, is the fact that we have communication. We have a regular newsletter that goes out, and it says what we're doing and some of the things that for example, if we need something, sometimes we've needed a car, sometimes we've needed, glasses. That's one of the things that we're able to provide. We'll put it in the newsletter and say we need, pants, jeans for men, and, shoes, underwear. And people will respond to that. A lot of people will come and volunteer with us. We probably got on any Saturday in serving 40 to 50 people, we've probably got 20, 25 volunteers that come in. The volunteers come in from wherever they want. Anybody is welcome to volunteer. And we don't have a sign-up sheet. I remember John Olson said, don't have a sign-up sheet, just let people come, because otherwise, if you sign up and then you can't make it, it just becomes a problem. The Lord always provides. And that's exactly how it's been. We have people that come in and they help prepare the food. Some people come in and they serve the food. We have people that have come in and played their music for us. We've had entertainment. It's a wonderful outlet, because so many people want to do something and they don't know how. And then we have people that are our benefactors, where they donate on a regular basis. And we're so grateful, because that allows us to provide the things that we ordinarily wouldn't be able to, give to people. As I said, I'm working with a lady right now. She's a one-legged lady. She's 70 years old. And I think she's got a little bit of problems with, mentally. But she's living in a motel room right now, and she doesn't have them. She doesn't even know where the food banks are, and it's just funny how the Lord leads you to different people. And I'm trying to help her now to be able to get some of her benefits, because she's due those benefits because she worked in her life. And because she's got one leg, she was telling me the other day that it takes her an hour to go to the store, which is a distance away. She's not familiar with the buses, and then bring the groceries back because she's on crutches. And then she didn't have glasses. When I met her, her glasses, they were falling apart. The arms on them had come off. And so with our kitchen, we were able to, take and get some glasses for her. And she's actually entitled to getting a prosthetic leg, but she needs to get the transportation. So in communicating, it's a good thing that the Lord just keeps putting people in our path that we're able to help. And we're just so blessed. So, you have any questions for me, Father?
So thank you, Carol. A few questions. We only have one microphone, so I'll ask a few. Hopefully your memory's good. I'll ask 2 or 3 questions and then hand the mic over. Hopefully you'll be able to respond to those. So I think just a few things struck me as you were speaking, Carol. First, just to remind us of, Thanksgiving for the great work that obviously you're doing at Foothills. Just reminding us of the basic human need of dignity for the human being. I think a lot of stigma still comes with homelessness, and it's good to be reminded how ordinary folk, if you will, end up in those situations, because people just don't end up on the streets for no reason. So I think thanks for sharing how people end up in those situations and arrive at a place like Foothills. And just finally, as you know, we do these little testimonials, as you will, as part of our ministry here, part of the Divine Mercy prayer group. People sharing their faith. I think for us it's become important just to see how people put their faith into practice, as we often say, So I suppose a little question is, one is just, because I'm not 100% sure what was your initial, how did you get how did you arrive basically here in the north of Belfast at Sacred Heart? How did you come into contact with the prayer group here? Would be interesting to hear. And how does your faith perhaps inform the work that you do at Foothill's Kitchen? Because as we say, it's important to put into practice our faith, to practice what we preach, as we say, and when necessary, use words. So it's great to see projects and people putting that something so simple but so practical as just feeding and clothing people in need. Yeah. It doesn't get any more gospel and foundational than that. So that was a few questions in there. Hopefully you remember some of them. Going to pass the mic back over to Carol. Hopefully she's remembered some of those questions and has a few reflections.
You asked me what motivated me. One of the things is I just have always had a calling to be able to help others. And in seeing that there were so many people that were unhoused, I just wanted to do something. And although our local parish wasn't doing anything, one thing leading to another. One thing I noticed is in my life and in the wisdom that's been bestowed upon me is, some people really know the scriptures well. They can quote the quotes so well. Some people don't know the scriptures at all. And then there's a group of people that actually live the scriptures. And this is, living the Word of God and reaching out and being able to help people. And it's such a blessing. And so many people, as I've mentioned, are so interested and they want to help and they just don't know how. The majority of people that actually help at the kitchen are probably Catholics from different parishes, but there's many. At one point, we counted that there were 26 different churches, and I don't mean Catholic, that were all reaching out in this ministry. You asked, how did I even get here to Sacred Heart Church? Well, I know Father Mel because he used to come to California, and that's how we've had pilgrimages that have come to Ireland and also to Medjugorje. And through that, I met Patty. And Patty brought me here to Sacred Heart for the Divine Mercy. And I was just so enamored by the faith of Stephen and Hugh and Tommy, and to see these young men, it's like something I haven't seen in the States, when they are praying and have such a strong faith. We have many Catholics in California, and it just edifies me to see that kind of faith. And so that's how I came to know Father Frank, in fact. And every year when I come, it's always like, in fact, I'm here with my brother and a girlfriend, and we're going to go around the whole of Ireland. But it was funny because initially we were going to go around clockwise. But when I realized that Friday was going to be Divine Mercy Friday, it's like, oh no, we've got to go the opposite direction so that we will be able to attend that, because it's such a beautiful part of being here every single time that we do come. So thank you.
But that'll be as a way of wrapping up here, Carol. So just again on behalf of the Divine Mercy Team North Belfast, just to say thank you very much again for taking the time. I know on a busy schedule, running around from the States and other places, visiting us here in the north of Belfast. I hope you have a pleasant, blessed travels and stay. Well, I know you're in Crossgarden. I spent many a year there as a student. It's a beautiful, special place. I hope you're enjoying your time, short time there with Father Mel. You're in good hands, and the Passionist community. So thank you, and God bless your ministry.